Hey everyone, welcome to your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. I'm Beth McCord, your Enneagram Coach. And here at YEC, we are passionate to bring the Enneagram to you to bring real and lasting transformation for your lives and your relationships. And we're also deeply committed to raising up and training the next generation of amazing Enneagram coaches. Now, each episode, we are blending enlightening conversations with special guests while also demonstrating some live coaching for you so that you can experience what Enneagram coaching is all about. Plus, stay tuned to the end. I'm going to pull back the curtain and share some of my thoughts, the things that I was thinking about as a coach, and why I went in certain directions, why I asked certain things, and why I went the way I went, right? So the coaching mindset. So stay tuned for that. And if you're enjoying this content, we really hope that you will like, subscribe, and then put a review for others to find this podcast as well. Well, for those of you that are passionate about guiding others with the Enneagram, you're one of those people that you can't stop telling them about the Enneagram and helping them find their Enneagram type and giving them direction. Well, maybe becoming an Enneagram coach is the right thing for you. And we have got a course called Become an Enneagram Coach. Now, to give a taste of what that's like, you can get our free mini course at yourenneagramcoach.com/mini course. But if you're like, Beth, I'm not quite ready for that, I just want to dive in and have transformation for my own life, great. Get one of our certified Enneagram coaches by going to myenneagramcoach.com. Now, with that, let's dive into today's episode. Let me introduce to you my special guest, Joe Graham. Now, for Joe, his entire career was building relationships with people, developing leaders, and empowering teams. He has worked with people of all different ages and backgrounds in a wide variety of industries and settings. A change management and thought leader who motivates executives and teams to innovate through diverse ideation, project vision casting, and smarter talent in organizational management. Now, he taught as an adjunct professor with Hope College's Center for Leadership and Western Theological Seminary. And he also, guess what, is a certified Enneagram coach, also a certified leadership coach. And with that, let me bring Joe on. Hey, Joe, it's so great to have you on the podcast today. Thanks for joining me.
Hey, so good to be here, Beth.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, we go back quite a ways. When was it that you actually took BEC, Become an Enneagram Coach course?
I believe it was 2018, and
Okay,
I often tell people, I believe I was in the first 100 coaches to go through your Enneagram coach training. So
that's amazing because
it's really
yeah,
exciting to be here and even think back that far. Uh,
right. Yeah, because we have now over 2,000 coaches that have gone through it. So yeah, you were right there at the very beginning. That was awesome.
mhm,
And then
mhm,
we've
and
seen each other along the way. You've been on the podcast a couple times. You're kind of my go-to type 5 because I really feel like you do such a great job explaining it, but that probably is kind of the teacher part of your heart,
mhm, mhm.
um, in kind of sharing things, and you're very personable. Um, and that kind of sounds like it goes along with your gifting and your calling. So kind of walk us through the timeline of your career and like where you've been and where are you going and where are you at right now?
Yeah, so I'll see if I can do the cliff notes. I always love like, what bio did I submit? Oh, am I that guy? And I'm not a three, but you did think I was a three when we first met, and so
That's right.
I
Yeah.
can discuss that as well. And that's also why you need coaching, because it was with a community of others that I discovered I wasn't a three, but I'm actually a five,
Yeah.
and that's really important in any journey for anybody. And the Enneagram just helps you get there faster. So
Yep.
I was an executive pastor for a church planting network in Western Michigan, and we get this great gift of doing professional development. And I had started utilizing the Enneagram as a leadership tool because it was, increasingly getting popular. And then we'd have like different interns come up and tell you what number they were, and I'd be like, "What are you talking about?" And as a five, you have to, find out what they're talking about and get a little curious. And so I did the leadership training for your Enneagram coach in summer of 2018. And I think I was the first person to ask for it all at once. It used to
Yep.
be like chronological, and I was like, "Hey, could I just get it all at once? I'm going to
Yep.
take a week and plow through it," which I knew I was a five at that point, obviously, and I knew that's how my brain works. And
Yep.
that really what I learned through doing that course, and then I started doing some coaching in my main job as a leader in the church network I was working for, but also I started my own coaching practice on the side. Is I just love working with people,
Mm.
and that has been the kind of the foundation of my career. Is how do I work with people, and the Enneagram has been a tool that just helped me do that better, and
Mhm.
also lead myself better, be better in my own marriage, my own family. And the Enneagram doesn't let it slip anywhere. It invites all of
Yeah,
your life up
that's right.
up into what I'm thinking, feeling, and doing, and how it's all connected at my best and at my worst. And so that really, I really do credit like that Enneagram certification started this whole new chapter for me in realizing how I was wired and what I was good at. And
Mm.
after that came, more coaching opportunities outside of my main job. And then actually, one of my Enneagram coaching engagements led to becoming the director of people and culture for a local company that cares for seniors here where
Oh,
I live in Western Michigan. And then along the way, I started to go deeper into the coaching world. I have my ICF coaching certification, do some executive coaching with a firm based in Virginia that utilizes the Enneagram
hmm.
primarily with C-suite leaders, which has been really interesting to learn how they use the Enneagram in that space. And I've been able to work with them along that way too. And then I currently serve as the director of training and culture for American House Senior Living. And I think about people leaders and what is the culture of leadership and the culture of training. What tools do we use to help grow people? And often in my day job, where the Enneagram comes up right now is, when there's conflict, often you have to go in and help people understand what's going on. And I always start with the people, and the Enneagram is one of the best ways to start with the people.
Yeah. So, like, walk us through that as an example. So,
Mhm.
there's something going on. Maybe people are disgruntled, they're confused, maybe they projected incorrectly. What do you
Mhm.
do in that particular situation?
Yeah. So what usually happens is it's either a whole team or an individual, and there's been some feedback sometimes that isn't the greatest. And I usually go in and go, leaders. It's often leaders, people who are in charge of others, and
Right.
leaders are hungry. They're driven. They go hard, and they may not always understand what is driving them to do the things that they do. And so
Yeah.
usually I walk in with a very like, what's going well for you? What do you know your natural strengths are as a leader? What are your weaknesses? What are your blind spots? And I just kind of give me the context of what's going on. And then I say, hey, to shape our conversation, we're gonna have 4 conversations over the next 6 weeks. Usually that's kind of how it works today. And I call that coaching light. That's a term that comes up. Like coaching light is like, hey, let's do 4 sessions, and I'm going to send you an assessment. And they do an assessment, and then I share the results with them. And we teach the Enneagram. We help them discover which is their type so that they can have a better understanding of who they are, how they're experiencing themselves, and how others are also experiencing them. And then they start to see, like, oh, yeah, as a type 1, I'm pretty critical. And, I'm also critical on myself because I'm critical on others. And
Yeah.
so what it does, the Enneagram provides language for us to talk about what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and what we're doing. And
Yeah.
that's why it becomes so incredibly helpful as a tool.
Yeah. So let's say you got that type 1 and you've got a type, let's say 7, that you're
Yeah.
recognizing, okay, they got some issues flaring up.
Mhm,
What would be some of the best tools or insights that you start with that
mhm,
you help to guide them?
mhm, mhm. Yeah, I would, one, I would start with, okay, when are you at your best? Like
Mhm.
what are you trying to achieve? What is particularly, and so I live in a kind of in the healthcare field now, and it actually
Mhm.
attracts a lot of ones, which is really interesting because it's a very compliance driven
Yeah,
industry.
that's right.
You
Mhm.
It's rules and regulations keep people alive, literally.
Right. That's yeah.
And so they have this very like boom 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 way of thinking about things. So I try to help them see like, okay, what's your natural way of thinking, And then
Yeah.
what's your natural way of being stressed out? And what happens and how do others experience your stress? Or
Yeah.
how do you experience? And so the 1 and the 7, I see what you did there with picking those 2 numbers and how they're connected. And so, like, the 7 wants to have fun,
Yeah.
and they're driven because they're actually avoiding something that might be difficult, and the 1 wants to do everything right because they don't wanna do anything wrong. And then,
Right.
if it's 2 people, you help them see how, I always love to say how we as people think we're right, and, the Enneagram helps us see us, well, there's 9 different ways to be right.
That's right.
And
That's right.
so and so it's like helping them see how they're driving a certain way towards certain objectives or initiatives or certain style of leadership, and how that is helping them
Mhm.
and how it may be getting in their own way.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because like the 7 and the 1, we want them to see how each of them can draw out the best of the
Mhm,
other,
mhm,
but they can also do the complete opposite
mhm,
when they're stuck in their own ways.
mhm,
So, the 1 is the reformer type, the do it right, go by the book. It has to be this way.
mhm,
And the 7
mhm.
is like, "Oh my goodness, do not put me in constraints. Do not limit me. Do not restrict me. Don't tell me what to do."
Yeah,
I
well,
mean,
and
those 2 could be like dynamite happening right there.
oh, well, and like the 7, like their stress path is to the 1.
Right.
So, like, the way the other person functions may be stressful to the 7. And then the 1, like, I actually, when I coach, the type 1, I invite them to be like, "Okay, what's the most, like, absurd thing you can imagine yourself doing?
Uh-huh.
And what's it look like? What's it feel like physically to dance
Yeah.
at work?" Or something ridiculous. Like, I always ask them, like, "What's the type of exercise you can't imagine yourself doing?" And someone will say, like, Zumba. And I'll be like, "Well, just imagine doing Zumba when you lead a meeting and how funny that would be to you, just to kinda, like, bring your energy down and try to help them get to that playfulness of the 7."
Yeah. Yeah. And it's yeah, because we want them to grow and expand and not to be so rigid in their own type, and that goes for all the types.
Mhm, mhm,
The more we're rigid in our own ways, the more we actually don't even realize that we're not in health. It's really
mhm,
when we open up our hands and our strategies and release this need to control.
mhm.
Even as a 9, I'm trying to control that there's peace and there's harmony, you know. But the more I try to get it, actually the worse things kind of pan out to be. That doesn't mean that having peace and harmony are bad, but I can't always try to get it and control it in a very precise way. But the more I open up my heart and my mind to um, using the healthy ways of even the other types, especially the other types I'm connected to, there's more that can
Mhm,
happen and unfold. There's more flexibility, there's
mhm,
more receptivity, more curiosity, more creative. I said creativity.
mhm.
Um, there's
And
just so much more that
there's
can
more
happen.
possible. Yeah, and so I tend to think
Yeah,
about it too, like with in a team setting, the the triads are so important because
yeah,
you tend to rely on one more than the other 2, and so people will be like, "Head, heart, gut." They're like, "Well, what about the other 2?" And I say, "Well, you have all 3, but do you know which one you lean on? Which is your
yeah,
go-to?" And so, like, how I usually teach the triads these days is, if we have a bunch of gut types, if we have 3 people in a room, one's gut, one's heart, one's head, and we have to make a decision that's going to impact the organization,
uh-huh,
the the head type is going, well, what's the data tell us?
uh-huh,
What do we know about the research? Past behavior is best predictive indicator of future behavior. The heart type is asking, how are people going to feel about this decision? And then the gut people are like, can we just make a decision and do something? We'll figure it out once we do it. And
yeah,
so just helping
exactly.
see how those different triads show up in different ways when it comes to being on a team and in
Mm,
relationships, because we all have different sense of what we're perceiving when we're trying to make a decision or when we walk into a room, and then when we can recognize that, oh, this person's leans on their feelings, this person leans on their gut, this person leans on their mind.
yeah. And so for you as a type 5, you're
Mhm.
in the head triad.
I
I feel
am.
like thinking all the time. What was that like to discover that and kind of learn and grow from it so that others that are listening can kind of go, oh, that's what he's talking about and understand the
Mhm,
triads?
mhm. Yeah, I think for me, for being a 5, and I break I've learned about myself, I break the mold of 5 because I am a social 5, if we get into the
Right.
subtypes, and if you don't know what subtypes are, that means you need to learn more about the Enneagram because there's so many good things. But
But really, the social 5, you're the countertype. So you're not the look-alike 5. That's why you kinda looked like a 3. Like,
yes, yep,
it's like,
and I
"No, you're not a 5." Yeah.
yeah, and so I think for me, it was I tested really high as in the assessments, and I've done like all the assessments because I'm a 5. I've tried all the different ones, and
Yeah.
really high 5 and really high 3. And I recognized 3 was more context and expectation in terms of like be the achiever,
Mhm.
who gets everything done, and takes the flag and wins the competitions and all that stuff. But then what I discovered was it really was competency, not for
Mm.
the sake of others' approval, but for my own self confidence. And so I feel confident when I fully understand something. And
Right.
so, and all the nuance to that. And so when I started to realize that, it really came down to like body language things where like,
Mm.
we say the head type spirit experience life above their neck. And so I heard a person on a panel discussion discussing what it was like to be a 5, and they said it's like your brain is above the table in a meeting room, and you're taking everything in,
Mm.
just observing, investigating, asking questions. But others may be experiencing you as aloof, like that you're
Mm.
not engaged. And so that really resonated with me because there's often a perception that I am not paying attention when I'm actually paying very close attention, but because I'm so in my head, I don't emote at all.
Right.
You don't emote in my body or in my feelings. And so and there's a whole nother reason for why I don't emote, but what it did is it helped me go, oh, I'm so in my head.
Mhm.
And if I leave everything that's in my head, it's actually going to take me out. Like
Mm.
anxiety and fear are going to run over, and
Mm.
everybody will be worse off. And so when I started to learn that I was a 5, it was like, hey, there's really good stuff in my head that other people actually want, and it's
Yep.
I should share it. And if I can just trust that I know it, uh
Mhm.
just go. I had a really good friend, we did some Enneagram workshops at one of our churches, and she was like, Joe, it's all in your head, just get it out,
Yeah,
just get it
exactly.
out. And
And the
so that
reason
was
you're saying that is because the 5s constantly feel they don't have enough information,
oh
when in actuality, it's the complete opposite.
yeah, like Beth, I showed up to my first Enneagram workshop that I booked with like 10 hours of content, and I
Yeah,
needed I needed two.
yeah,
I needed two.
and the growth path for the 5 is to just get out there and do it.
8.
Like,
Yeah.
just yeah, go
Right
to the
on.
8, do it, assert yourself, have
Mhm,
the confidence that it
mhm,
will come. What is that
mhm.
like for you when you step into that space? Because 'Cause I'm sure it's not like you step into it going, "Oh, this feels great, this feels comfortable." It's, like, probably really hard, right?
It used to be. It used to be really hard. I have
Mhm.
the blessing of being married to an 8.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know if we've ever talked about that, but
No.
but the Enneagram's been so helpful because I'm the stress path, but then at
Yep.
my best, I go to 8. For me, the word I'll use is power.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
going with my gut, being outspoken, being direct, it, uh, it feels really powerful and almost overpowering and
Mm.
overbearing. And so sometimes what I noticed in myself is I had embraced my 5ness to a sense, and it actually made me more passive because I was
Mm.
because I was afraid of power and afraid that I might be too direct or be a domineering leader. And we've part of it is we've been around those types, those leaders
Yeah,
who just
sure.
dominate, control through command. And so I was trying to be really cognizant of that. But then through the Enneagram and some other work that I've done, it was like, no, just go with it. Like trust your
Yeah.
gut and get out there. And so at first it felt like I was out there on an edge, like but now that I've got practice at it, it actually feels better because
Yeah.
what it is like all that charge that you get through your body for especially for the types that are more reserved, once you actually say it, it feels great.
Mhm.
And
Yep.
it's not as big of a conflict or contradiction, or it's not as big of a deal as you think it would be, because you're
Mhm.
always it's that future focused of what could, what could, what could. And then when you realize, like, if in the moment I just say what I'm thinking, it's actually like a release valve.
Yeah, and that's really what the 8s but for them, they're like, they can't not, like,
Yeah.
it feels like a fire in their belly that has to be
Mhm,
expelled
mhm,
immediately, um, and so and obviously, they have their own things to work on with that, but I think for
mhm,
the 5 to realize, "Okay, when I have that sense
mhm,
of n wanting to communicate or needing to communicate, to go ahead and do it."
mhm,
And I agree, like, I love what you said is, like, it was hard. And I think
mhm,
that's anything like, for each person, the first step of growth is super hard and scary, and you feel like the floor is gonna drop out from underneath you, all your worst fears are gonna happen, or who knows what. But when you do it and you see the amazing beauty that comes out of it, you wanna try it again, and then again,
mhm.
and again, and
Yeah,
then it
and that
becomes easier to do.
yeah, and that's why coaching is so important, because it goes often coaching, at least the way I think about coaching today, is like someone got to here, but they're trying to go to here, but they don't know how, because they don't have the language to
Right.
understand like what they're experiencing. And the Enneagram helps you go, okay, here's what I was thinking, here's what I'm feeling, and here's what I did. And it's
Yeah.
like, okay, well, let's diagnose that with language that the Enneagram provides us, and you can look at and discern, well, what's is that true or not true about who
Right.
I am, or
Yeah.
what my true identity is.
Well, and we don't always know or see what we're doing or experiencing, and that's why coaching is so helpful. And I mean, not just, I mean, obviously, we're talking about Enneagram
Mhm,
coaching, but if you even just think like right now, the World Series is going on. Well, those players, they've had, batting coaches that have to really tell them, no, you don't understand. You're
mhm,
swinging this way. Like you think you're
mhm,
swinging it the right way, but you're
mhm,
not. Like
mhm,
this is the better way for you. And
mhm,
it's the same with us. Like for me as a 9, I am so convinced on a regular basis that making people happy will make the world a better place and
mhm,
my world amazing.
mhm,
But I always stumble on the same thing. You cannot make people happy. And then I'm sad and,
mhm,
whatever it is. But when I stop and recognize, no, I don't need to make people happy, and I have a coach and I have plenty of coaches in my life,
mhm,
that my job isn't to make people happy. My job is to live out my life with truth and to voice what is that truth and to move
mhm,
in that direction one
yeah.
way or the other, like whether
Mhm.
people like it or not, which feels so scary for a 9. But when I do
Beth,
it,
what's it like to say it's not my job to make other people happy? Like, what's it feel
oh,
like when you say that?
there's so much, it's like this ambivalent feeling because there's parts
Mm,
of me that are like, "Yeah, preach it," like,
mhm,
"That's
mhm,
right," and then there's parts of me like, "You just said that? Oh my gosh," like, so there's and I think I love that question because if I don't recognize what's happening within me, these competing parts, then
mhm,
I'm probably most of the time am going to be overwhelmed by the scared voices because
mm,
who wants to be scared? Who wants to live in fear? No one.
mhm,
So then I'm
mhm,
going to start using defensive mechanisms as a 9, which is again people pleasing tendencies, codependent tendencies,
mhm,
um,
mhm.
negating myself, and
Go along to get along.
yeah, and then I just wind up in the same place, and I always tell people, like, "I'm winding up in this ditch," then I throw up
Mhm,
my hands like, "How did I get here again?" Well, it's
mhm,
because I wasn't paying attention
mhm,
or having, like, a coach in my life that's,
mhm,
lovingly and caring saying, "Hey, let's talk about, how this panned out or what was
mhm,
going on or why
mhm,
do you think were trying to make so and so happy? Like, what was going on behind the scenes?"
mhm,
I probably wouldn't recognize and give enough attention to when I'm veering off course because
mhm,
we just don't realize it because we're so used to doing that same thing the same way.
mhm,
But having those coaches in my life, they've alerted me like, "Hey, I know that you can't see this, but this is what's going on.
mhm,
Let's talk it through." And then usually, because they give so much space for me to talk,
mhm,
then I wake up going, "Oh my gosh, you're so right. I didn't even see that I was going in that people-pleasing direction,
Mhm.
and it can happen so subtly. And by
Oh,
having that
it's all
coach.
nuance. It's all in the nuance.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's almost like I could trick myself into it, like,
yeah.
"Well, they need this because," or, "This is gonna be helpful because," and, I mean, obviously, making people happy in and of itself is not bad or wrong,
Mhm,
but
mhm,
when, it's my ultimate goal at the detriment of myself and others and what's actually needed, that is where the problem
mhm,
lies,
mhm,
and it can get so foggy. So, anyway, I think what's so helpful is what you were saying is having a coach to really highlight the things
mhm,
that we can't see in ourselves is what's so important.
mhm, mhm, mhm. And the good, and the good.
Yeah,
People
and
are
the good.
people
Yeah,
people are naturally we're naturally drawn to the deficit.
yeah.
We could
And
get
what's that
9.
like for you as a coach with
Mhm,
C-suites or, leaders? What is that like when you highlight their strengths and their good? What does
mhm,
that do for them?
mhm. Yeah, well, what usually happens is they see the 5% that isn't where they want it,
Mm,
and a lot of it is affirming what they're already really good at, because the knowing what you're good at is only how you go from, like, here to there, and so
mhm,
they may, and then how others are experiencing them, and so I think helping leaders see that they've been celebrated in their career for solving problems and finding solutions and getting things done, but then they get stuck. And so their new autopilot or record player is they can't seem to break through to the next thing, and they don't realize that they're stuck, but because
yeah,
they haven't seen that they're like what they're best at and what they're worst at are intertwined and they're
mhm,
connected. And so a lot of it is giving space for leaders to use the language of a tool like the Enneagram to discover themselves in a new and different way
yeah,
and recognize that it actually doesn't put a box around them, but like knowing, like for me, so knowing that I'm really good at strategy, planning, organizing, thinking about the future is incredibly helpful.
mhm.
And it's in some situations don't require any of those skills.
That's right, yeah. Yeah,
And so it's like, okay, my natural solution is to develop a plan for how we're going to fix this, but like that may not be what the room actually needs.
mhm,
And so, or yeah, and so, or but then it's also how you got into the jobs you're in. And so, I think it's helping leaders see the deficit mentality and seeing how the strong, one a simple metaphor is like, you're really good at using a hammer, so but then when the problem in front of you requires screws, you can try to put screws into a piece of wood,
yeah,
but it's not going to go well.
yeah, that's right, that's right.
And so the Enneagram in some ways gives us, it's like, okay, what tool do I have in my hand for how I work and how I show up in the world? And then now
Yeah,
that I know that, how can I best use it and not use it?
yeah, and I think that's really good because, like, even as I'm thinking about that, my brain just kinda lights up with all different thoughts when you say that. I'm such a metaphor type of person, but, um, like the screw, if I have a hammer, like, let's say my type 9 person well, my type 9 personality probably wouldn't be a hammer, but we'll just go with it. Um, But let's say, the type 1 is the screw. Well, we use all 9 types. And I
Mhm,
think
mhm,
what people usually come to the Enneagram with is, well, I'm a 9, so I can't, I guess I'm going to have to sit this one out. And it's like, no, you have all the resources
mhm,
within you.
mhm.
Some are easily accessible, your wings and the Enneagram paths.
Yeah.
Some are a little bit less accessible, but they're all there. And
Mhm,
so, again,
mhm,
it's understanding as a 9, okay, I wanna naturally just make everyone happy, and I want there to be ease and flow, but in this, circumstance, that's not what's called for, that's not what's needed,
mhm,
and
mhm,
I'm gonna have to step out of that comfort zone, or it feels like a comfort zone, and do something different, and I can access this other part, this other quality that's in me and move into it.
mhm.
When you're working with people as an Enneagram coach, do you find that people resist that understanding, or do they get excited that, "Oh, you mean I don't have to be just this one type?"
It's freedom.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean, when you discover yourself in a new way and you become more self-aware, it it's this, like, I don't know how to describe it other than a moment of grace.
Mm,
It's like, "Oh, I don't have to always strive for this thing that I think I have to always strive for." And so
yeah.
sometimes I call the Enneagram your core when you discover your core type, it's discovering the paradox that you can't resolve.
Mm,
You
yeah,
know,
that's right.
like, as a type 5, like, the internet is the best and worst thing that ever happened.
That's right.
And so I think there is this liberation and freedom that people experience and almost grace. And I always think about, like, hey, what would you have told yourself? What would you have told your 23-year-old self if you knew this information about how
Yeah,
you were wired?
yeah.
And or how would you approach that if your child came to you at 23 and let's say they were a 3, and they lost a job,
Mm,
they lost their first job. Like, how would you respond to that? And I do some, so I often go there, but I also think about, like, I worked with what should it? I can't remember their type, but we created a prototype, like, uh, Flawless Jenny was the name, and, like, Flawless Jenny was really helpful in her career, but at times Flawless Jenny was just in the backstage telling you everything you did wrong.
yeah.
And so by naming, like, the kind of the shadow side of, like, the type 3 or the type any type really, naming
Mhm.
it, like, disarms it, and you
Yep.
recognize, like, "Yep, I see what you're saying, but that doesn't get to rule me."
Yeah.
That's where that's actually not true.
Yeah. What now that you've moved, because you've taken different steps along the way in your own
Mhm,
career, especially being an Enneagram coach,
mhm, mhm,
where where are you right now, and where do you hope to, like,
mhm.
kinda go?
Yeah, great question. And it's connected to what I know about myself because from being a type 5, truthfully. And so my dream is to be executive coach full time.
Mm,
And I'm on that pathway. I do a lot of that in my day job, which is great. I get to work with leaders and for as the director of training and culture for American House, and then I'm able to maintain a smaller client roster these days than I have in the past. So I have 3 to 5 leaders that I work with
mhm,
externally, and I'm building my coaching practice in that way. And most of that's by referral at this point,
mm,
and I would call it passive marketing. And so my dream and hope is to jump towards it full time, but I also know myself as a 5 as I really value security,
mhm. Yeah,
and
right.
and I'm afraid of insecurity. And so
Yeah.
that financial jump as the one of the primary earners for our family is something I pay attention to. And so I've continued to move into jobs that have allowed me to be an Enneagram coach kind of internally
Mm,
and use it as a
mhm.
leadership development tool. And so I'm really fortunate in that way. But because of how exciting the work is to me, eventually that's the space I plan to jump to. It's just a matter of time. And, like, to get real tactical with it, like, for a 5, like, part of me is like, I want to have 6 months of income saved
Yeah.
before I make
Yeah.
that jump, because
Yeah.
I know, like, coaching is really fun for me right now, and there's not financial pressure on it necessarily. But if there was, I know what
Mhm.
that does to me as a 5. I withdraw, I go into my own head, I
Yep.
rewrite a new business plan in the middle of the night, which doesn't help anybody. I'm not, and uh, so those are things I just know about myself, but I've kind of set that trajectory out there,
Mhm.
and uh, also being aware of who I am as a 5
Yeah.
in
Well, what
terms of
is
my
a
natural tendencies. Yeah.
'cause, some people may or may not even know, but what is an executive coach? Like, how is that different?
Mhm, mhm. Well, an executive coach, I work with I focus in on leaders, and so in teams, leadership teams, and so helping leaders lead out of everything that they bring to the table. And so, really,
Mhm.
the proposition for coaching at the executive level is: Are you getting everything out of the leader that you have asked them to do, and are they aware? Self awareness is kind of trendy right now in a lot of different
Mhm.
spaces, and that's where I go, yeah, if you're using, like, oh, I'm really self-aware, that's usually like that's, to me as a 5, that's a warning sign of,
Sure.
like, well, what feelings do you experience?
Yeah.
Are you aware of your feelings? Are you aware of your thought patterns? And so but being an executive coach is helping leaders be the
Mhm.
best leader they can be, and recognizing that their autopilot got them to here, but it won't get them to where they need to go as a
Yeah.
leader and to drive the results that their organization has for them. They need that. What a coach does is very similar to, like, I think, Beth, these are your words that I've used 1,000 times. The Enneagram's like a non-judgmental friend who holds up a mirror and says, "Hey, this
Mhm.
this is what's happening."
Yeah.
And so, and I would say leaders need that
Yeah.
because the pressure they experience, and in particular the amount of uncertainty we've had to navigate over the last 3 4 years in every
Mhm.
industry, every field, nonprofit, for profit, corporate, churches. Like, you're just, so much is coming at you. And so as a coach, as a leadership coach or executive coach, you really enter into the sacred space of serving kings and queens. That's one of the
Yeah.
ways I think about it, is like, I think you're a cupbearer. So I think, I'm a, I went to seminary. I've got all that stuff in me at heart. And so, but like, you're a servant and you're there to
Yeah.
help. And the Enneagram is a really good tool to help.
Yeah. Well, and what I love about the Enneagram, whether it's for execs or just anyone, is that it dials in
Hmm.
what
Hmm.
people are already needing, but it's tailored to them. It's not just
Oh,
this
it's
it's
very
not just a
personal. Hmm.
blanket, like, "Oh, you should
Yeah.
have a day planner." Okay,
Hmm.
well, guess what? There
Hmm.
are probably 9 different ways of doing a day planner. So as an
Hmm.
executive coach, I can more specifically guide you in what that looks like for you, or how to guide
Hmm.
your
Hmm.
people from your strengths
Hmm.
and your weaknesses. Like, it's not just a generalized
Hmm.
coach. Like, we're getting very
Yeah.
specific.
Hmm. Yeah, I was working with an executive leader who oversaw two different locations that were about 10 or 15 minutes apart. And this leader identified as a two,
Mhm.
and the was pretty overwhelmed, and the great, because they were trying to be everything to everyone,
Sure.
you know and always recognize how careful we have to be when we talk about twos, but
Mm.
like, they don't want to say no, and
Yeah.
which means they're not actually saying yes to anyone. When they're saying, when they never say no, they're actually never saying yes to themselves or others. And so, like, one of the things we discovered was, hey, what if you published when you were going to be at both, at each location?
Mm.
So they needed to physically be present at this office and then at this office for the operation. And it would always be like, well, you weren't here. And so you weren't here. And then, so imagine if a two hears, you weren't here,
Yes. Yeah.
and this, how that can help them spiral. And I just said, hey, you really want to be there for everybody? What would it look like if you just posted on your office door at both locations when you were going to be in?
Yeah.
And then you
What'd
just
they
did that.
say?
It was like game changer. They're
Yeah.
like people, and other leaders started figuring out things on their own too,
Yeah.
instead of always bringing it to the two who helps them figure everything out. They're like, oh, so and so will be here tomorrow, and they may have resolved it by tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so this, that, like, that those subtle things, and that comes out of a conversation about how your personality functions.
Yeah. And that's why it's so important to, again, have a coach in your life that can highlight these things. Because for them, it's not like they weren't sitting around trying to think through how to make their life somewhat easier, because we all want it a little bit less
Hmm.
complex or hard,
Hmm.
or we're frustrated, or we're struggling, we're exhausted, you name it.
Hmm.
But we
Hmm.
can't sometimes see it because it's like
Yeah.
we're in it. And so having you say, "Hey, what about this?"
Yeah.
Game changer,
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know?
Or yeah, or like with like the one, I think we focused in on that probably because I've been working with a lot of the ones lately. Is like, I go, hey, when you come in, here's what people feel.
Mm,
Like, you go in with this list of things we got to correct and make right, but did you walk around and say hi to everybody first?
yeah. Yeah.
And like, you're actually going to get more done if you do that than if you just get right into the, like, making everything better.
Yeah. And that feels, I'm sure, in them at the moment, contradictory, but then once they
Hmm.
start doing it,
Hmm.
they see amazing results. Like, who knew? Oh, well,
Yeah.
my
Well,
Enneagram
like,
coach knew.
yeah, well, and like, you think about those, like, words, like, I'll pick on myself since I've been picking on the one, like the five, the investigative thinker, like, I can't know everything.
Mm,
And at a certain point, you get fixated on the question of why. I want to know why. And then I saw this phrase. It was like, why doesn't matter.
Mm,
And I cognitively know I can't know everything.
yeah. Well, and what's interesting, I gotta tell you this story. So, I interviewed a Type 5 on one of our, podcasts. This has been a long time ago, and he was telling me that he's at least 65. Anyway, his Evernote folders, he had 40,000
Yeah.
files.
Hmm.
And you're like, see, to you, you're like, "Well, yeah, like, Beth,
Yeah.
who doesn't have that?" Like, of and I'm like,
You see my
"What?"
books. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, I mean, to other people, that is like, how do you even get that many, have the time to get that many, let alone even know that they're there? Like, for me, like, honestly, I don't even know what's in my Evernote. I haven't looked at it in a while, but a 5 would totally know what's in it, how to
Mhm,
get to it, how to
mhm,
resource anything all the time, and that's what's so remarkable, but then again, that is also a drawback because but I need more.
mhm. It's exhausting.
Right.
So that's some of what in coaching I love, uh, to do with folks and feel so privileged to do it. When they realize what's exhausting about themselves
Mhm.
and can, like, start to, like, have some levity with it and kinda chuckle a little, you
Yeah.
know? Like, I think that's when you really start to have the breakthrough of, like, they're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, yeah." I haven't seen this anywhere, but my guess is fives tend to be hoarders
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
keepers of things, and,
Yep.
because we think, "Well, what if we could use this again?"
Right. It's a resource.
It's a
I need my
resource.
resources.
I
Yeah.
need my resources, and they give me they give me confidence, and so
Yeah.
and that's where for me too as a coach, leader, person really, it's like, "Hey, trust that you know everything you need to know for this,
Yeah.
and just go with your gut and get into your heart."
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's one thing that's so amazing, like, when we talk with 5s, and it does not in the moment feel true, but it's like
Mm,
you need to get out of your mind and into your body.
mhm,
Go take a walk
yes.
or some sort of exercise,
Swim.
whatever.
Well, swim. Go get in water is what I say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Swim, walk, run, like bike,
Mhm,
whatever it is. Do something physical because it takes you out of that headspace where your head's literally like out there and you look aloof, and
mhm,
it grounds you with your heart and your head together with the gut.
mhm,
Talk about that
mhm,
just for a second.
mhm,
What has that been like for you to experience that by stepping into activity?
mhm. Oh, it's like the most important discipline for me is physical activity.
Hmm.
I used to think it was to get up and have my morning routine of like reading and like spiritual disciplines. And those things are essential.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the integration of mindfulness into that too, of like mindfully walking
Yep.
or and I go back and forth on this. Do I listen to something when I go for a walk or do I not?
Mm. Hmm.
And a five, I don't need to because I'm gonna have a lot of thoughts when I walk, and I'm gonna have a great conversation with myself. And then, as my kids and wife point out, "You talking to yourself again?" And I go, "Yep," and I'm talking back to myself because
Yep.
I am having this robust conversation. But yeah, getting into my body, particularly for me as a five, is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And like, be it yoga, swimming, just something physical, going for a walk. I think during the pandemic, I got way more into going for walks,
Hmm.
and I forgot how simple and easy and cheap that is,
Yeah.
and how healthy it is. And you see data and research where it's like going for a walk is almost as good as going for a run, in some ways. And so it's yeah, I
Yeah.
think just being physical and and that's I'll go back to this, and maybe this is one of the themes of our conversation today, Beth. It's like I know I'm going to think it through,
Hmm.
but have I felt my way through it?
Yeah.
And have I actually been present with it physically?
Yeah.
And so getting in touch with my emotions and
Mm.
getting in touch with and then going to action and not worrying about if I have all everything A through Z figured out. has been incredibly helpful for me
Yeah.
as a 5.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm even just thinking for me as, a 9 when you were saying that, you know, when I need to speak, to be assertive, to say
Hmm.
what needs to be said, which can be very fearful for a 9.
Hmm.
Well, what if it hurts someone? What if it's conflict? What if, all the things? But or like what if they think I'm being mean? Well, if I remember who I am, like, okay, I'm a 9. Like, I am naturally warm and supportive and
Yeah.
kind and
Yep.
peaceable,
Hmm.
even
Hmm.
when I speak up and say the hard things. Then I can trust the overall ethos of my personality, the
Hmm.
way my disposition, and
Hmm.
step into what kind of feels uncomfortable, knowing that there's going to be this blend that's happening and a lot more health and um,
I think directness,
variety.
yeah,
Yeah.
directness and clarity, and like otherwise, for the 9. Otherwise, they experience you as passive aggressive,
Yeah. Right. Yes.
which you
We don't
don't
want
want,
that.
which you
No.
don't want that. So, like I say, the energy is gonna go somewhere,
Right. That's
and
right.
so like I can either stress people out by not saying anything
Mhm.
and physically changing the environment, or I can just say what I'm thinking,
Yeah.
which feels
Yeah.
really uncomfortable to me at times, but actually it's better in the long run.
Yeah. Okay, so as an executive Enneagram coach and
Hmm.
leadership coach,
Hmm.
I know that you are in our certified, coaches directory, which
Hmm.
people
Hmm.
can find you at
Yes.
myenneagramcoach.com. So Joe
Yeah.
Graham. So just walk really, as we kind of wrap up, tell us a
Hmm.
little bit more about like what is it like to sign up and to go through executive or leadership coaching,
Hmm.
and then anywhere that people can find you. That would be,
Hmm.
I mean, I said that they could find you at myenneagramcoach.com, but where else can they
Yeah.
find you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Go to the directory, the Your Enneagram Coach directory. I've had good business leads, some really good business leads actually come from that, which is
Yeah.
for people who are like, "Hey, does this actually work?" Yeah, it does.
Yep.
And at the speed for me, it's been really good. When I say passive marketing, that's a passive marketing investment that I've made that has paid for itself, and then over every
Mm,
year I've been in it, it's paid for itself in the first quarter. So
wow.
it's worth that. Yeah, and because it's for me, it's like passive marketing. Unfortunately, I am unreliable on social media, so I don't have many handles I could give you. I have some stuff out there, but you won't hear much from me. The best thing is to go to joegraham.work and email me there. I'm better at email. As a 5, you like pick your channels and
Yep.
being available on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn as well, Joe Graham. And so yeah, what I'm most excited about though with leaders is uh, being a leader is a full contact sport,
Mm,
and it is not getting any easier to lead. The challenges we face for our churches, our businesses, our organizations, our communities are increasingly complex,
mhm,
and the way forward is good leadership. And
mhm,
we are at this interesting moment where the hands of leadership are changing from a generation to generation.
hmm.
And as the baby boomers move out of the workforce, the millennial by 2026, I think it is that there'll be more millennials in the workforce than baby boomers. And so there's
Wow.
this massive shift. And it's my belief that we've been stuck on certain leadership models to solve problems for a world that doesn't exist anymore.
That's right.
And
Yeah.
I have a very person-centric approach to how I think about being a leader is
Mhm,
being a person who knows what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and how they're showing up in the world with their actions. And
mm,
so what I want to help leaders do is lead at the best possible way from all of those different dimensions of who they are so that we can do really meaningful work to make the world a better place. And that feels cliche, but like that's what we are all about. And I believe that's a very kingdom view of the world too. You think about complex problems where things are not
mhm.
black or white, it's not either or. Well, the same is true about you. You are not just this or that. You're not in a box. You're fearfully and wonderfully made in the image of God, and you have so much to contribute. And what I get most excited about coaching leaders is I help people figure out how to make the greatest contribution to their professional life and their personal life. And that can have significant impact for so many people. And that's why I get up every day to coach and help people.
Yeah. I think as a leader, having a coach is a non-negotiable. I
Hmm.
mean,
Hmm. Hmm.
because like you said, it is so hard to be a leader
Hmm.
in whether it's a small business or a large business, all of it is
Hmm.
hard.
Yeah.
And I 100% agree. The more we can understand ourselves and love well, like love our team, love our customers well,
Love
um,
ourselves, love
yeah.
ourselves well.
Oh, yes.
A lot of leaders are driven from their own personal pain. And
Right.
some of these tools that come through coaching and like the Enneagram assessment help you discover where that pain comes from. And it
Yep.
doesn't necessarily go away, but it helps you confront it.
Right. Yeah. And to get healthier.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
yeah.
So anyway, I really do. I hope that people go to joegraham.work, or you can go to
Hmm.
myenneagramcoach.com, and he's in both places. Joe, it's been such a joy to just have you as a friend. I thank you so much for going through the course and just taking the training, and multiplying what you learned to bless others. Like that's the goal. We just want to see the ripple effect in other people's lives. And you have done that and then some. So thank you so much for just being that inspiration. And yeah, so everyone go get in contact with joegraham.work. Thanks,
All
Joe.
right. Thanks, Beth.
Well, I hope that this conversation with Joe Graham was really helpful for you guys today. Hearing from a type 5 who is the counter type 5, he's the social type 5, if you know the instinctual subtypes, just to see what an Enneagram executive coach looks like, how to help people with where they're at in their business and their leadership, and how to help their company. There are coaches out there that can dial in for you coaching techniques and insights that are just for you. And that is so important. Well, if you would love to have someone like Joe Graham in your corner to help you, then you can go to myenneagramcoach.com, and all of our certified coaches are in that directory, and you can find one that fits you best. You can also go to joegraham.work and sign up with Joe as well. But if you're like, man, I would love to do that, I would love to do what Joe's doing, or I'd love to be an Enneagram coach, then get our free mini course to try it out, to see what it's like at yourenneagramcoach.com/mini course. We are delighted to show you all the different tools and the ways to become your best self, become a coach, or to help others to become their best selves. Now, remember, the Enneagram reveals your need for Jesus, not your need to work harder, because it is the gospel that transforms us. I'll see you next week in Your Enneagram Coach, the podcast. Thanks for joining us.